I'm Neil McInroy. I'm the global lead for community wealth building with an organisation called the Democracy Collaborative. We're a USA-based think tank. It's about economic change, system change. I spend 50% of my time working in the USA, the rest globally, and I live in the West Highlands of Scotland in a wee place called Oban. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I've got a few opening words. I think I'll start with a joke. Do I hear a joke? Three types of economist. Three types of economist, yeah? One that can count and one that can't. I got a better laugh last week in Ireland. I'm here today, I suppose. In my work, I'm an economist, an alternative economist, if you like, but I dip into other worlds. Now, health is not my world, right? So be easy on me. But I'm really looking forward to learning, sharing what I can. And isn't these events brilliant, aren't they? I imagine you're all really busy, eh? Nobody's saying no, I'm eating. Look, you're all busy. This is a brilliant time, innit, to like exhale a little bit. Chill, right? Have a bit of fun. Yeah, relax, share. I know you've got all that pressure back at the office, right? But this is a real chance to celebrate and share today. So I hope you really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it a lot. We all need that time, don't we, to exhale and share. A wee bit of housekeeping, there's always things, isn't there? Right, there's always these things. Right, so there's a quiet space, including the prayer, is available at certain times, details at the reception desk. There's photos are being taken throughout the day. If you don't want your photo taken, please let the reception desk know. There's 3 polls throughout the day, Mentimeter, so keep yourself aware of those and prepared to log in when you see the QR code. We don't have time to cover that a lot in terms of the feedback from that, and also the sessions are quite packed, so we've got a lot of question and answers, but please feel free to have conversation at tables and so forth. Use social media. Is it written down there? It's down at the bottom there. Hashtag THCA Summit 25. And also, at the end of the day, it's worth noting that we have an awards ceremony, so please stay around for that, for some no-seco or press-eco or whatever your tipple might be. Before we get going, I just thought you're thinking, who is this guy? Is it a Scottish accent? Okay. Well, good. Tough, it's the only one I've got. And also, because I'm not in the USA, I feel relaxed even though I'm not in Scotland. It feels like I can speak more Scottish, but I'm wrong in that assumption. So if you do have any problems with the accent, just tell me, and then I'll do it even stronger. Right? So, now, the title of this event, I think, is a truism. A truism. Wealth creation equals health creation. It's a truism for me. And vice versa. Yeah? That health creation is wealth creation, as well as wealth creation is health creation. And for me as an economist, we know the standard stuff in terms of how health creates wealth. Health is an economic sector. Of course it is. Jobs, land and property, investments. Yeah? Health is an economic sector. It creates dynamism in the economy. It creates growth in the economy. So health is an economic sector in itself. Also, healthy people are productive people. You don't want to put people into just being like economic units, but for me, if you're healthy, you're more likely to be productive. Yeah? So for me, health isn't a cost. It's an investment in the productive capacity of society. But too often health is seen as a cost. It's a drain, isn't it? But it's actually an investment. And if you take investment in, say, early years or the unborn child, that for me is an investment in the productive capacity of a society and economy. The other thing, of course, that we know is good health reduces demand on public services. Simply speaking, if you've got more money in your pocket, right, you're less likely to be ill. But in terms of wealth, so that's health equals wealth, but wealth equals health. And of course, wealth is a determinant of public health. Yeah. And poverty and inequality, right? Well, the economy, as it stands at the moment, and I'm into economic system change, yeah? The economy at the moment is ill health and poverty producing. The reason we have ill health, for me, is because the economy is crap. It doesn't work well. It's a system which creates poverty and inequality. So what gets me out of bed in the morning is to try and change the economic system. Yeah, that's why I work for a left-wingy, green American think tank. Yeah. So the economic system for me is really important. Now, ill health, good health, and well-being is not something, I think we tend to think of it, health, we describe health inequalities, we do analysis, we assume that logic, ideas, evidence bases around health inequalities will eventually go through the sausage machine and we'll get better answers. Yeah. That, for me, is not true upstream change. True upstream change focuses more on the structural dimensions of the economy. It's going deeper. And that's why, you know, for me, community wealth building, well-being, investment in health as a productive element are key elements of this system change. And I work in a world where we're looking to change that economic system. So I'll shut up and I'll bring in others in a minute. But conditions for good health. Health is investment, not a cost. System change is required, and that relates to economic system change. And in essence here, this whole thing, it's top-down, bottom-up thing. Top-down, bottom-up. For me, it's about how we actually create, it's not top-down or bottom-up, it's how does bottom-up reform, community power, changing the structures of the economy and who has power over it is key to changing the top-down elements of the system. Right, that's probably all you'll hear from me today, apart from going through the proceedings. So now let's go to our first contribution, and it's Jamie O'Halloran, who's a senior research fellow at IPPR. Jamie. Very good. You good?
Okay, so hello. Thank you all for having me and being the first speaker today. So I'm Jamie O'Halloran. I'm a senior research fellow at IPPR, who are a UK-based think tank trying to create a fairer, greener, more prosperous society. We spent the last 3 years trying to sort of demonstrate across the UK how health spending should be not seen as a cost, but should be seen as an investment. We found across 4 different papers, 4 areas where we think sort of investing in health would be beneficial to society. So taking earnings, so we found the onset of a new long-term health condition increases the chance of you leaving work and also you facing lower earnings. To a tune of around £1,500 for those with a physical condition and about £2,000 for mental health condition. If we aggregate that to look to the national level, we estimate that there's a £43 billion loss from long-term earnings for those with a new long-term sickness diagnosis. It's about 2% of GDP. So this shows the size of the prize that we're able to attain if we're able to invest properly in health. The other part that of interest is that of productivity, it's hard to say. The UK has a stagnant growth rate of productivity for the last sort of 10 to 15 years, and we believe health may be holding us back. So we estimated that there's a £20 billion increase in the cost of lost output due to presenteeism, so going to work whilst sick. That's costing businesses and the economy billions of pounds in lost output. The other area, thirdly, the cost on public finances. So poor health also leads to high healthcare demand, and we sort of estimate that the NHS will be spending £18 billion more per year by 2024 if we remain on this same current health trajectory, which is unaffordable. And also places, we see sort of huge inequalities in places across the UK with a 20-year health expectancy gap holding back areas and not being able to be as productive as they could be or should be. So we need a real big system change. So how the current model works is very much a sickness-based system and not health creation. We're seeing that businesses are profiteering from health pollution, and we need to readdress this. We need to have a whole societal system approach, and all institutions need to work together to ensure that health is at the centre of their objectives. So health is not just about care; it's about work, the economy, and communities, and the families which you live in. So in our paper, we set out sort of like 5 key foundations of what we believe would be good foundations for any sort of new economy. So firstly, work. Work is vitally important for our health. However, bad work leads to poor health, which leads to job losses. We then need to create a system which promotes good work and allows people with conditions to engage properly in work. Second part is about sort of industry and industrial strategy. For many years, we've been seeing companies, again, profiteering off health polluting activities. We want to see a health industrial strategy which promotes businesses which support people's health and don't profit off making us poorer. And the start of a healthy life is also is important. Because we released a paper a few months ago that showed that health at age 10 predicts health at age 50. So 40 years later, we're seeing sort of potential benefits accrued if we're able to intervene earlier and help children live longer, healthier lives. And then we have the healthy neighbourhoods. So we see that local areas wide inequalities, and we need to improve local conditions and local environments for people to engage longer and happier lives. And then there's changes to the healthcare system as well. We want to see a more reactive healthcare service, NHS focusing more on prevention, focusing on long conditions, and making sure health is in the community. So, like, sort of next steps. There's been like a lot of there's a lot of encouraging sort of signs. So that with the release of the 10-year health plan and a number of bills which are really exciting, which are going to improve people's health. But there's still a lot of questions to be answered. I think many of them will be sort of questioned today. Is like, what actually is the NHS? How does it work? How is it going to be funded? How we can make sure there's patient voice included within that? And then, like, how do we really ensure that, as Andy Burden was saying, with health and the policies, how do we ensure that all policymakers have health at the heart of any decision-making process that they are engaging in? I'll be there. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Just one question for you, Jimmy. If you were to look at, you mentioned system change, what one thing would you say gives you good hope for optimism moving forward in the health system we have at the moment and where it's moving? Just a thing that you think that's a trigger thing, it's something that's probably catalytic. What's the one big thing that gives you good hope?
For me, the hope was in Labour's manifesto. They had the health mission, which is to half the healthy life expectancy gap between the regions in the UK, and that is an indication that they are sort of seeing. They're wanting to create a system which supports that supports health, and then some aspects of the 10-year plan are indicative of wanting push to a more preventative style NHS, which is also like very exciting.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. So the health mission.
Health mission and prevention focus. Yeah.
Nice. Good. Nice. Thanks, Jamie. Nice one. Good. Moving on. Our own Merron. You all right so far? It's good, isn't it?
Thank you.
The floor's yours.
Thank you very much, Neil. That's a great start. a lot on the economy there. Health Creation Alliance, as you know, is more focused on health creation than wealth creation. So we'll have much more coming through later in the summit. But I'd like to start by offering everyone here a very warm welcome to this event today, the Summit, Health Creation, Wealth Creation, Investing in Community Agency, and the awards, which we hope you'll stay on for later, where we're inviting you to step into the change space, to see what we might do differently and urgently together, and to make some important shifts happen in reality. So thank you, Neil, for coming and chairing today's summit, and thank you, Jamie, for setting out IPPR's important work on health and economic prosperity. And this, what Jamie was talking about, was part of a 3-year commission on health and economic prosperity that was co-chaired by Lord Aradazi, who's better known for the quick review of the NHS he did over the summer, but he did this much longer term review. And so have a look at that. It's called Our Greatest Assets, and it's on the IPPR website. And Jamie, I hope you can stay around for some conversations today so that people can, pick your brains a bit on some of the detail there. Obviously, identifying huge cost to the NHS if we don't get this right. As we know, there are many dynamics between health and the economy. 10 years plus of austerity was a driver of poor health, and then we had COVID to deal with, which reinforced that growing health inequity. Extractive business models have become more prevalent, including in our public services, and this has increased health inequalities and inequities across the board. So not just health, but social, economic, and wealth inequity. And now it's confirmed, poor health is holding the economy back. So we're in the catch-22, and there's not a lot of time to act on this. When it comes to the type of change that's needed to create a more equal, healthy, sustainable future for everyone, there are many parallels between health and the economy, and Neil alluded to some of those. So we need to see the social injustices, the isolating effects of those. We need to rebuild the social connections, and I would argue the financial connections between people to overcome that isolation and build community confidence. And fundamentally, we need to start investing in and increase the agency of communities rather than extracting from them. So today's summit is especially focused on investing in community agency, because that's the bit that is not being done. That's the bit that keeps being skirted over, ignored. So we're going to address it head on, because that's what we do at the Health Creation Alliance. There is sufficient evidence now that there is sufficient money as well, but the resources are still not being deployed in the way that will make this so-called left shift happen. And that's because the slow pace is a question of power. There is an ongoing injustice at the heart of how the money is being spent. So the Health Creation Alliance, we're a solutions-focused organisation, and today's event, we've brought together what I think are some amazing contributors who we think may have some solutions to this. They are, of course, part solutions, but if we can knit them together in the right way, then we might just have the start of a roadmap to some sort of change that we think we can work with. And so that's what we're doing today. You don't need me to tell you the urgency of today's agenda. At this point, I could quote a load of statistics. For example, the huge uptick in the use of NHS paediatric services since COVID. But the Health Creation Alliance's principal lens is not data, it's community insight. We look through the community lens. So instead, I'm going to offer you some insights from one of our members, Alicia Mortzlock. Alicia would have loved to have been here today, but she couldn't face the travel from Suffolk because she suffers from severe anxiety. But she wrote a guest blog for the Health Creation Alliance. You can find that on LinkedIn. And Alicia speaks about the indicators of poverty she sees day to day on her estate. Carrier bags filled with food packages and canned foods. And noting that food banks, which were only meant for short-term relief, not long-term, they've struggled to provide fresh produce and balanced meals. So she sees children growing up on her estate contending with issues of obesity and malnutrition coexisting. The result, this is doing serious harm to and provides serious health risks throughout life, but at the start of life, it's a serious burden to the NHS going forward. It's Victorian-style poverty, and it isn't sustainable. And people are angry about having to work harder while falling further behind. We know that confidence in politicians to be able to solve these problems is strained at the best. We're in danger of losing the concept of citizenship, of underestimating the power of grassroots communities and civil society, and taking our eye off community cohesion. And discrimination of many types seems to be on the rise, and we've witnessed some alarming race discrimination and crime over the last few years. And while the devolution agenda is taking shape, it's understood principally as top-down power to elected regional mayors. But devolution will fail if people can't touch and feel and see the difference it's making in their lives and their communities' lives. If people don't have a stake in their health, their care, housing and economy, if we don't put connection and community agency at the heart of this agenda and do what I call ground-up devolution. So what's the change model? Perhaps that's the biggest question of all. Well, I was struck in the build-up to the 10-year plan, the publication of the 10-year health plan. A lot of people were asking, so what's going to be the difference this time compared to all the other times? And there is a yearning for a change model that actually works, one that might plausibly help us get out of this catch-22. So the Health Creation Alliance, we're doing what we can, what we think we can. For almost 10 years now, we've been building what we think are some of the elements of helpful change model. And there are 3 elements, and I'm going to just go through them very quickly. Our framework, some of you will be familiar with this, and some of you won't be. It might be the first time you've seen it. But our framework for health creation underpins everything we do. And it builds out, we built it 10 years ago out from the question, what causes health and well-being? So we're looking at the causes of health, not the causes of illness. And we asked people what the biggest difference made to their health, and they told us. And we build this into all of our work because it keeps us looking to create health. And you'll see the 6 features, as we call them, of health creating practices there: listening and responding, truth-telling, strength focus, self-organising, reciprocity and power shifting. Hugely important. You can read all about this in section 3 of our 2024 manifesto. So I'm not going to go on about that anymore, but it does, used well, is very powerful, and it creates the conditions for sustainable change. And then the second element of the change model is our cross-sector movement. Got a couple of thousand people, plus lots of partners helping us with this, getting behind those already doing it, whether they're primary care or housing or social care, showcasing their work. We're creating narratives that land well. We offer opportunities for connecting like today, help build the leadership confidence for health creation. And we must address this 80% of health that is created not through healthcare. And so these are our ambitions, missions, etc. And we're really pleased that you're here today, and some of our partners are here today supporting this event. We're extremely pleased for that. But the third element of our change model is what I call the space holder role. So we often hold the space, whether that's at national level through some projects we do, or like this event, or locally, and we hold the space for change. We did an event, a webinar in December last year with Lord Gus O'Donnell and a number of other contributors, and we looked at what goes in this space model, and this is just a summary of that. But look, moving towards one another, respect, dissolving the divisions, all of these things. And so what we've got here, we're trying to create a new ecosystem, or the possibility for a new ecosystem. So obviously we've got the ground up that we're all working towards, the top down, the government issue, the government missions. Policy is an important part of this, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Then we've got the community lens. That's really the principal lens for health creation. There's the policy lens. This is the Lord Gus O'Donnell lens. Perhaps some of you are more into the data side of this, the evidence. Some of you, we look through lots of different service lenses, don't we, as we cross-sector space. But then there's lots of different services. And popping in here is, let's not forget families and networks as part of this change model. So what we're aiming to do here is, in most of what we do, is to create the space and enable new connections to form. And that's why Health Creation Alliance members reflect all of this. And that's why you'll meet people here today that you don't normally meet. And we do that on purpose, obviously. So this summit is a change space, and we hope that it will be, for you, part of the change process. It's been billed as a change space. We're showing you our host leadership credentials, hosting this event and creating this space and platform to gain new insights. So be curious, build new connections, and figure out what you might do to imagine a sustainable future for everyone. Thank you very much.